Cushing's Bookshelf, Episode 15, Advice for Reading Dante's Divine Comedy. And welcome back to Cushing's Bookshelf. I am Nicole Cushing, and this week I want to offer just a few ideas for how a 21st century reader can engage with Dante's Divine Comedy. So without any further ado, let's get to it. The first thing I want to talk about is the name of the work. So it's called Dante's Divine Comedy, written by Dante, of course. And one of the things that we need to bear in mind is that this is a collection of three poems. So three long poems. And so you have the first poem is called the Inferno. That is obviously the most famous of the three poems. The second is called the Purgatorio, and the third is called the Paradiso. Now you can find editions of the Inferno just by itself in a lot of places. Matter of fact, when I had trouble finding the complete Divine Comedy in a bookstore. Lots of bookstores only sell the Inferno by itself, which is okay, but you have to be careful what translation you get. For example, I saw this at a half-price bookstore, and I figured, well, this will be good. It's kind of nifty, and it's illustrated and all that kind of stuff. And then I got into it, and the translation was by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and it was difficult to kind of muddle through. It wasn't the best translation I could find. And there are no explanatory footnotes or anything to kind of guide you as far as, exactly who Dante is referring to, because he makes a lot of allusions to, works of Roman literature or works of political figures of his time and this kind of thing. And so it helps to have an edition that has notes. And it's also helpful to have all three books, I think. So I would suggest tossing that book aside and taking on this one. It has all three books, as you can see, the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and the Paradiso. And the translation, I think, is very helpful. It's presented less in a poetic sort of form. It's almost reads as like a long prose poem. But I find that works. I think it's difficult to really have a translation work in capturing the poetry anyway. So yeah, I just found this translation to be a lot more helpful. Here you get all three books. Here the translation is more modern, and here you have wonderful, wonderful, wonderful footnotes that kind of explain everything that's going on. There's only one problem, though, with this book, which is its introduction. The introduction, published here by the publisher Everyman's Library, is from a speech given to a group of Dante scholars in 1965, and they just have carried it over through each printing without changing it. And it's a little hard to understand at times, especially if you're just, it doesn't really serve well as an introduction. So that introduction, at least, we're going to toss aside. And instead of read that edition, don't toss it aside completely. Read that edition, but don't read the introduction. Instead of reading that introduction, what you're going to do is you're going to pick up this book, which has an unfortunate cover. It's the art, I'm afraid to say, is not all that skillful. And the design is not that skillful either, because the complete title isn't even on the front cover. Anyway, what it's called is To Hell and Back with Dante, a modern reader's guide to the Divine Comedy. And I found this to be very helpful. So in place, it gives you a good introduction, and it also breaks down the Divine Comedy book by book. And the sections of the poem are called cantos, or I guess it would be translated as songs. And so canto by canto, it will kind of describe literally what's happening in a kind of Cliff Note sort of way. And also provide a little bit of interpretation and context and everything. And so I recommend this definitely. It's out of print, but you can find a copy on abebooks.com, and I would recommend that. Yeah, so any place you're looking for secondhand books, any website for that, you can probably find it. I think it's out of print, not 100% sure. But anyway, that's the video for this week. Of course, I have not gotten at all into like the everything as far as the content. I'll probably be doing some videos about that, but I wanted to just get into the beginning stages of how to approach this. So without any further ado, take care, and I will see you later.